Hey, today I wanted to get into the Holocaust a little bit. The book does a little bit of an introduction on this, but unfortunately, most textbooks really don't get into the sort of the nuances of the beginning of the Holocaust. They kind of sum it up very quickly because honestly, there's not a lot of, I mean, it sounds weird, but there's not a lot of space. They tend to not really devote an entire chapter or so to it. And so it's kind of difficult for them to move on at a good, decent pace through American history and really get into the little bitty kind of bits of it. But something that a lot of textbooks, not just ours, but a lot of textbooks miss, they just literally skip over it, is that the Holocaust doesn't really start full bore. The German government doesn't start rounding up Jewish people and other groups of folks and start executing and exterminating all these people. That's not the way it goes. Um, it's a really, really slow and deliberate process. They're not going to jump right into this and let's just murder, a million people right off the bat. Um, and they go really, really slow, and it's very step by step and very incremental. Um, one of the early things, Hitler takes power in 1933, and over the next couple of years, he takes small steps. One of the big things, and there's a lot of anti-Semitism that goes back all the way to probably the 300s and the 400s. It gets started all the way back then in Europe, but for Germany, for our purposes right now, Hitler and the Nazi Party really go on this really big push that the Jewish people were to blame. This globalistic empire, these Zionists, were to blame for Germany's fortunes in World War One. And so, 15, almost 20 years later, when Hitler comes to power, that's one of the things he's going to run on, that the Jewish people and these other people, the communists from the West, they're, all these different groups are to blame, but primarily the Jewish people that are infiltrating our society. Kind of, that's the argument that he's going to give. And he's not proposing anything oppressive just yet. Just these are the bad people. These are the people that you need to look out for, is the kind of the first step in this process. Um, and later on, that's it's a couple of years. We're going to take some small steps. One of the early small steps is gun control. This gets played a lot with some serious misinformation on social media. You see a lot of times, Hitler was, endorsing gun control in Germany, kinda. uh, Hitler actually restricted gun rights for Jewish people, communists, gypsies, um, and some other folks. He actually cuts down on their ability to purchase and own firearms. However, he expands firearm rights and firearms availability to Aryan Germans, to white Germans. Um, so it's not, that argument on Facebook sometimes that you see that, Hitler endorsed gun control, kind of, for some people, but not other people. So that sort of tripe isn't accurate at all. So he does restrict gun ownership for those folks. A couple of other things go down. One, there are restrictions on the types of businesses that Jewish people can own. Uh, and later on, a little bit after that, Jewish people have to identify their businesses. You have to put, the yellow star in your window on your business uh, to make sure that everybody knows that a Jewish person owns this business. Very quickly after that, Jewish people have to identify with the yellow star on their clothing to make sure that everybody knows that you're a Jewish person. And the argument that the German government's going to put out is that there's a lot of anti-Semitism. We're keeping you safe. Um, and so, nothing's really happening though. This is just a first little step. Nothing's really happening to these Jewish people. You have to identify your business. You have to identify who you are. But as far as actual things, that's about it. Uh, a little bit after that, about a year or two after those initial things, then they start moving people. They start first moving German Jewish people to ghettos, to areas of the cities and stuff where just Jewish people are going to be allowed to live. And so they're, kind of coalescing these groups of people into the ghettos. And again, we're just saying that we're just moving these people for their own protection, maybe. Uh, and, as far as executing people, as far as doing anything like that, it's not quite yet, but we're getting on the cusp of it because we are restricting where you're at and monitoring movements and stuff like that. Um, now, after that, though, and this is probably 1940-ish, the concentration camps are going to start being constructed, and there's probably a few a little bit earlier. I might be getting my dates slightly wrong there, but there's a big thing. In Germany itself, the concentration camps that are constructed, the first ones, these are for political prisoners. And so lots of people are going to go to these. And these are not, and kind of keep in mind the terminology, these are not extermination camps yet. The ones in Germany are concentration camps. Jewish people are going to be restricted to these. Homosexuals, communists, gypsies, atheists. Uh, we even have some priests from other countries that are questionable in their teachings. These places are going to be set up inside Germany, and these are concentration camps for political prisoners. One of these is Dachau in southern Germany, and when my dad was in the army, uh, in 1988 or so, we actually went to Dachau. It's a super moving experience. But at first, Dachau and a lot of other camps are just political camps for political prisoners. They're not extermination camps. And for the most part, no extermination camps are going to be in Germany. We want to make sure that the German people themselves don't really have super firsthand knowledge of this. They knew something was going on, and they knew that the German government is doing something to Jewish people, and the Jewish people are gradually disappearing. But specifically what's happening to them, the German government's not really putting that out. Um, and, the German people themselves do deserve some criticism here because they're fine with not knowing. The Jewish people are just disappearing. They're going somewhere. I don't know where they're going. I don't know. It's not my concern. Uh, so, um, but that's kind of the where it's going right now. Now, uh, as Germany starts expanding militaristically, and as Germany starts invading other countries, especially when they invade Poland in 1939, they're going to start constructing these concentration style camps outside of Germany. And so, the final solution is getting rid of all the Jewish people that live in Germany, and eventually, because Germany wants to take over all of Europe, well, the Jewish people are going to have to be removed from there as well. And removed, I mean murdered and exterminated. Um, and so the largest camp Auschwitz-Birkenau. Auschwitz-Birkenau is in Poland. Again, we don't want the German people themselves. Not that they would probably really stage all that much of a protest. We don't want to give them some firsthand evidence. We want to keep it some sort of plausible deniability. Uh, and so, it's not really until probably late 1943 when the massive waves of really ramping up this extermination project go on. So, uh, overall, I think there's 6 million Jewish people, and there's about 4 million other people. So 4 million communists, homosexuals, gypsies, other people exterminated along with those Jewish people. So you have about at least around 10 to 11 million people that are exterminated by the German government and the German people during the war. But it's really only about that last year and a half that takes place. Uh, there's some small scale executions and stuff like that leading up to it, but these are done by groups called the Eisengruppen. And they will go out and shoot people and execute them that way. But the large scale sort of industrial level of exterminations going on at Auschwitz and a couple of other places where they're just literally herding people into the gas chambers, gassing them, and removing them, and then burning them all in the crematoriums. That takes place in about a year and a half. That's it. And that's scary as heck that a government can, in a year and a half, think about that. That's less time than it takes for you to get your degree here at Cal. A year and a half, the German government's going to exterminate 11 million, at least 11 million people. And that's not counting the military casualties that come out of this war. Um, so now, I just kind of wanted to get in, and this I try to keep my videos under about 10 minutes or something. We're edging just about to 13, or getting closer to 13 by the time we finish. But I just wanted to kind of give you a brief look at this. Is just gradual. This is step by step by step. This is not, hey, 1933, Hitler comes to power, we're going to execute 11 million people. No, we're taking small steps because the German government wants to gradually get people exposed to this, gradually get people to, well, the Jewish people are having a starve, not a big deal. The Jewish people we're having to locate their businesses and stuff like that, not a big deal. The Jewish people are now having to be moved to these ghettos. Not a big deal. The Jewish people are now being removed from Germany, and they're going somewhere, but, probably not a big deal. You know, it is a monstrous deal, but what I'm trying to get, though, is that this is a very gradual process because we're getting the German public used to the idea, and we're testing the waters, and that's what's the scary thing about this. And that's why, a lot of groups, sometimes you'll see them pop up and they're like, oh my gosh, this is kind of getting scary. It's this gradual process, and that's the kind of thing that we need to always be on guard for, is that sort of thing. So that's the way the Holocaust kind of gears up and stuff. And it's a kind of scary thing, so keep that in mind. Anyway, we'll see you later.